sometimes for some of the odd reasons. You know, they've had a couple of near chokes, near misses, especially in the previous game that we obviously casted them yesterday, but a lot of big positives as well. And this would be a massive scalp if they could take it. Big, firm favorite starting on the CT side of Inferno. And Spirit, as they touched on the desk, without Dexter, have Patsy in. He did perform the best statistically against Gambit. We'll have to see if he can rinse and repeat.
Yeah, we've definitely had some questions about Gambit as well this tournament, whereas although Big's first game might have been a little bit rough, even though they won 2-0, looking much better throughout the tournament. Keto's got his classic raid boss, the Julie with the Kevlar. He's managed to trade back the initial kill, but on the other side of things, they've also got a P250 in the hands of Magix.
He's a player for me, Tom, that needs to have a big performance here today. He's been quite weak over the duration of the tournament, which is odd to say. Searson, another player that's not quite been there statistically compared to usual, is going to be helped by Tizian, and they fend off this middle push with ease. It's Tizian that picks up 3, and it's Big that pick up the first round.
Yeah, I actually want to highlight something in reference to that. So one of the maps yesterday on Train was Magix's 5th worst performance ever. Guess who the team he had his worst performance ever against was?
Could it have been Big, Tom?
It was against Big, Vince. Not the greatest of signs to start things off, but hopefully that is just a worrying coincidence and not something that will actually play much of a part in this map.
Already quite a bit of nade damage inflicted to Mia, down to 54. He's a player on the T-steps. Bomb just behind him, but the rest of his team are actually making moves towards middle. Early banana control established. MP7 in play, love to see that, alongside the MP9. And it's only Xantares that has his hands on any rifle. So they're looking to farm through this force buy of Spirit.
Yeah, that was something that we actually witnessed when we saw this map earlier in the tournament, was that when they played against Hellraisers, their CT side was actually pretty rough, but their T side was incredible. And I think a big part of that was Xantares. Like, he had a pretty rough time trying to play through the pit. I will say also Hellraisers played one of the most unorthodox T sides I've ever seen, which was basically just like, I almost want to say matchmaking. Like, they would just 1v1, taking ridiculous fights, running through smokes, and just doing very, very risky things. And it seemed like Big were just not prepared for that sort of T-side to come up against them. Now, I don't expect the same from Spirit, but at the same time, they do have players who could realistically do that. Take risks, win rounds of just pure individual brilliance.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with a CIS region team like Spirit, and obviously they've been going through a couple of changes, there's a certain element of uncertainty. Maybe Big have done their homework. Maybe they have actually tried to plug in any of those gaps of the Pug style. 18 seconds to go. Xantares will be holding down on short with 2 quickfire FAMAS frags. That's the bomb that goes with them. And that's more than likely the round as well. It's all about damage at this point, and Patsy's taken down 1, but 13 HP remains for him with a deagle in hand. At least he dies before time, so he's not going to get completely screwed economically, but it does mean that Spirit will concede for a 2nd time in a row.
Yeah, I actually do wonder if Xantares was trying to let him survive until after the time. It seemed like his teammate came around the corner and almost ruined that plan a little bit, but in the grand scale of things, it's probably not going to make too much of a difference. Very little invested into this round for Spirit. I wouldn't be surprised if we just see them launch those nades up the top of Banana, hope that they kill somebody off getting a little bit aggressive, and then the plan would be, okay, can we now get the bomb down on B? Unfortunately for them, they don't actually get as far forward as I would have liked. Like, normally you're going to go for slightly deeper nades, but they all bounce off the wall and nobody had really pushed up that far. And in fact, the utility damage on the other side is what's doing the majority of the damage. Easy cleanup thus far, and realistically, if you're on the Big side of things, you don't want them losing any players here, and they don't.
And this is the perk as well of going for 4 SMGs right off the bat and just having supreme confidence in your own ability. Their cash is already stacked so high. They can use this as a bonus. They keep the bulk of their SMGs, but upgrade Searson to an AWP who's yet to die. Only player that's died actually is Tabson, which is twice. Everyone else is still immortal so far. So already, just upgrading to an AWP, they have plenty of money in the bank, a lot of firepower as well, and this is about as good of a bonus round as you could really ask for, Tom. This has been an excellent start for Big.
Yeah, we'll see how they do with this round. The AWP of Searson makes this more dangerous than it would have been without, for sure, as it reduces that SMG. Well, of set up slightly. We'll see what he's actually going to do in this round, because this is a round where he can afford to take a few risks. Like obviously saving this into the next round if they don't manage to be successful would be great, but it means that having it, he has to try and be as proactive as possible. It's still taking a bit of a battle into mid, but considering the current positions of his teammates, he doesn't really need to worry too much about B. It's fairly stacked up. It's mainly if they try and rotate back, which it looks like they will be, that he might come under a bit of pressure.
Oh, HE not only softens Mia up, but slowed him down, and I thought that could make him a victim of the SMG spray. Not quite the case, but Searson with the aforementioned AWP has put it to use. Now the wide swing from tabseN, who has statistically been a monster in this tournament, and he continues to show why. 30 seconds to go. They have to push up Banana. Young takes the headshot, but walks through it. With a Molotov for the cross, they had no smoke, but no one was there on CT side to fend them off. tabseN a little bit too late. And Tizian now making moves up Banana, and Mia on low HP. Just 11 to his name, still connects the headshot and gives Spirit every chance of taking their first round of the semi-finals. They still have tabseN and Searson to contend with, but with an AK and an AWP in hand, they do well to not lose these. Obviously, they want to play for the W. They want to play for the win. And that's what they're coming in for. But tabseN caught in transition alongside Searson. And Spirit finally convert an opportunity. And that will put Big into a bit of an awkward spot. They can still buy no problems. They're going to deplete a lot of their cash in doing so.
Yes, whether they can juggle things around enough to make sure everyone has a purchase. If not, normally it is just going to be Tizian taking the hit. But yeah, you are sort of correct in that the latter stages, you do wonder if maybe just saving that extra weaponry just to make sure everything was flawless for this round might have been a better decision. And actually, the loss is the fact that now Searson, he does drop over a rifle to his teammate, but what that means is he doesn't have any Kevlar. So a risk taken and an opportunity here, and he's already going to have to be forced off the angle. And the risks that you might see him take, like with a re-peek or some re-aggression, he has to be a lot more careful in these sort of situations because of that lack of armor.
Absolutely. Not only more susceptible to getting naded down, but aim punch as well. You come around the corner, you look for that quick fire AWP shot. It's no longer as guaranteed as it would have been previously. So you're spot on. He is going to play far more passively towards the site, just using that passive angle. So one and done, he'll fall back. He also has cover from Pit, courtesy of Xantares. So they are playing this one a lot more passively. Tizian also not fully peeking middle, knowing he's alone. Incendiary has been put down now. A lot of counter utility tossed in by Big, but there's still 50 seconds to go. It does force Spirit back, but they have tons of time after this to make a decision and stick with it.
I'm almost questioning if we have a replay of Tizian there, though, because I think he spams through the smoke and dinks 2 players. Like, both Chopper and Magic's ridiculously low very early on in this round. Mir's still trying to keep some presence over onto the B side, and 2 players will remain there. But with the damage already done, this is going to be a pretty rough take. Utility minimal now for both teams. A single Molotov for Magix, and this time Tizian is not going to have the same success. It's Young to remove him. No traces there, by the way, because that is the silenced M4. That is pure prediction coming out of Young. But Searson on this side, they've got 10 seconds. They have to move down. The bombs hit the deck in the last few. They need to get onto this site, and they haven't managed to clear Xantares. They've completely run out of time, but Xantares will mow down the remaining 3. 4-1 in favor of Big. A good hold on the site, and Spirit just running out of time.
The man mountain perched on the site. As you said, those spot on. They were running so low on time that they were in a bit of a desperate mode, a bit of panic station maybe coming in. And in doing so, they were squashed accordingly, and it puts them already on the back foot. They could have maybe forced in, knowing the economy is not so fantastic for Big, but they've decided to go in for Tech 9s and a Desert Eagle with some Kevlar. It does afford them a lot of luxury into the next round, but you feel like this is a round where Big should, at least, farm up the kills, get an extra round of money behind them, and not quite be in as dire straits as it could have looked if Xantares fell on the site and suddenly we're in a post plant instead. They'll be taking early apps control. We've seen Big already try their hand at some early banana control and then back away and just leave Keto alone. That will be the same here, and they've made the correct decision. 4-player stack on site, Incendiary down, forces to Malcolm, gets a 2-for-1. They're going to be charging into his grenade. So much damage done just by the German sniper. And Spirit haven't really made up any ground for their woes.
He has to pause as well. This is just a 1-2 punch. They're not going to allow them to get anywhere near, and then Tizian swipes in from behind. This has been a beautiful start to this map from Big. Everybody seems to be performing, and this is something that's been mentioned already on the desk, is like, oh, you know, Searson, considering how well he did last year, he's had a little bit of a quiet start. If this is the match he wakes up, Spirit may not stand a chance in hell. They don't even have their AWPer in this map at the moment. Some Young will probably pick it up a little bit later on, but you've got nothing to really contest with this man. I don't know if Dexter just decided that he didn't fancy it today. I know that, obviously, this is something they've been doing throughout the tournament so far, but when you have, well, literally a top 10 player in the world on the other side, not having your counter does seem like a pretty big risk.
I can respect they've stuck to their guns, Tom, but yeah, I feel like against Big, you need to bring out every single X factor that you possibly have, one of which is Mia. He obviously is going nowhere. I don't think he'll ever truly be replaced in this roster, in this 6-man iteration at least. I think he's someone you have to have on the server for what he brings to the table, and that gave you a brief glimpse of what Mia is capable of. tabsin down already, does force out an over-rotation with 2 players. I say over-rotation, but to be fair to them, if this B site is hit, this is going to be the correct rotation. And that's some good utility also tossed in. He's going to keep the T's at bay a little bit longer. I wonder how long Big keep 3 players over on this area of the map, though, Tom, before pulling back.
Yeah, they'd have to rely pretty heavily on Searson, but luckily for them, with all the grenades currently being thrown over, it seems fairly well telegraphed the direction that Team Spirit are going to be going in, so they've had no real reason. This boost spot always difficult to clear, at least for the first man, and now they do go running back. I think they've spotted enough players that they've decided, okay, let's put the pressure on this site. Searson going to be there once again. First shot missed, and that could be the end of him. The flashbang is superb. He has one of his own to try and buy a little bit of time, buy a bit of space, but you can tell at this point he doesn't know where to look, and Sun Young will be his executioner, leaving 3 players to rotate in from Big, and they're going to be caught by Chopper on the wraparound. A 3v2 after plant, a rough one for Big to attempt.
2 AKs, I don't think they do attempt to either, Tom, and they have the finances to get a buy into the next round, but if they were to lose both of these guns, it would be a little bit thin spread. So they are going to piece out of there, go save the 2 AKs, and, you know, as much as we've been bigging Searson up, and for good reason, he's been pretty ineffable so far in this map. Did have a couple misses there. That first shot is one you expect him to land. May have been caught a little bit off guard, but when there's 20 seconds to go, you've got to have that focus in for the last few moments of the round. If he gets one, I think there's a better chance that Big get back onto the site. He probably doesn't get overwhelmed as easily because time was so low, but that's all in the past now. They have to focus on this, the 8th round. And it will be a case of juggling the economy rounds. Antares doesn't have a huge amount of finances, but Keto could actually drop an AWP to Searson. And they're going to call a tactical timeout to make sure they're all on the same page.
Yeah, they'll definitely be going for something in this. Interesting. Top 3 players and opening jewels are all in the server, or would be if Dexter was playing. That's always going to be the thing, though. Like, we talk about added pressure with these sort of rotational rosters, and the fact that Spirit have actually said that some of the bases is going to be off of performance, which I do think that's got to be a very stressful atmosphere to be in. Like, it's not something I'd like to be in, if I'm being brutally honest. But the fact then that if this goes wrong, you know everybody, like, be it people analyzing the game, fans watching the game, are going to be like, well, why are you not using your AWPer? Why is this person in there? And the pressure is just going to grow even further. So they've got to believe in everything that's going on. And, well, there was definitely some belief from Keto that he was going to get away with something there. That's the 2nd round in a row now that there's been a push into one of the members of Spirit, and they've had a pretty easy opener, and Mir really doesn't need you to make it easy for him. The second player, well, just walks through, and that's a 2nd for Team Spirit.
And it was Mia last round that did pretty much the exact same thing. Walked up Banana, I believe he killed tabsin that time around first. This time it's the reverse, it's the flip. And Big already losing 2 players. As we just said, called a tactical timeout just to juggle their economy to make sure everyone had a fair helping of firepower. They're looking at an eco should they concede this. So Spirit in a solid position to make this sting. Some aggression through in the smoke. It has been called by Mia. He expects this to be a thing that comes up to fruition, but not quite there in terms of his placement. And so Tizian has bypassed that. That affords the luxury of sending Searson across the A site. They need Xantares to have a massive round, and it's so unfortunate timing. He pulls the nade out, and Magic's wide swings him with the smoke down on towards CT side through Library. There's not much Searson can do, but he does at least take Magic's out of the round alongside it. But Mia is on the lurk, and Tizian never stood a chance. They want to make sure that none of Big get out of this round alive. And Mia, who kicked the round off with 2 frags, is looking to go full circle with the last 2 of the round. And Searson's not sure if he's pushed or not. Not sure of his current position. I'm not sure if maybe Mira's waiting for that flank behind Searson to take shape, but it's a gimme. It's a freeze. Thinking about going for the knife. No, not like this. And he gets the knife as well. It's so brutal. But what a beautiful round by Mia. A 4K that just completely decimates Big.
There seems to be a running theme now of Mir knifing German players, because he did this as well when we saw them play against Sprout. He then also attempted a couple more knives, which went horribly, horribly wrong. So, like, very ambitious ones. That was ambitious in itself, though, because if Searson checks the angle, he gets wrecked and potentially loses another weapon. So, bit risky, but he's boosted his economy a bit. And while, more importantly, he's taken that AWP away. So there's not going to be much in this round for Big whatsoever. I do think that playing aggressive versus Spirit, it has to be so thought out. If anything, I'd want them to try and stack up an extra couple of players there, because getting rid of Mir is really not going to be an easy task. He wants you to fight him. He wants you to go for those brawlier plays, because when it comes to individual skill, I don't think there's many players in the world that match up to him.
Especially not with how well-rounded he is. He can almost be like this ruthless entry fragger, but then he can really slow it down. Doesn't mind being more passive, as we saw there, just lurking on T-steps. In terms of this round, it is a complete bust for Big. They basically put nothing into the round other than a couple of deagles, and one of which is in the hands of Xantares. Yes, he can certainly thread a couple of headshots. Wasn't too far off there, but got aim punched by Chopper. But it is Spirit now. After a pretty horrendous start, they were 5-1 down. They've won the last 3. They've put the pressure on. And now their economy is in great shape on top of it.
Yeah, interestingly, one of the things we've seen so far from the side of Spirit is that it has been their CT sides on most maps. I'm going to exclude Nuke from that because they just dominated on Nuke. But their CT sides have been a little bit rough. Like, even when they beat Gambit on this map, I think they got 13 rounds on the T side. So, and Big almost did the identical thing when they played their initial opener versus Hellraisers. Their CT side was rough. They really excelled over on that T side. So you got to look at this in context. Sure, not every match of Inferno is going to be exactly the same, but I do think we can expect that Spirit need to get a fair few rounds here. Now, Magic's, that is a ridiculous shot. Searson waiting on an angle, someone we know for his lightning fast flicks. Well, wasn't fast enough that time.
Ego just got absolutely dumpstered, and so will Tizian. I'm getting a bit of a flashback to when we saw Big playing here earlier in the tournament, when Xantares was just getting bullied on the site because he was constantly in like these 1v3, 1v4 situations with players just swarming all around him. He had absolutely no hope at all. And it seems like Spirit, they're just clicking now. Beautiful entry by Magic's. Great to see, as he has been underperforming. He's typically a player that you expect to see so much from. And moments like that are why. Now, they have picked up both AWPs. I'm assuming they toss one of these away off the map just to make sure that the CTs don't get their hands on it. I mean, it's a map, to be honest, that a lot of teams don't even play a single AWP, let alone 2. That would be very unorthodox. They've already tossed it away. And now they've gone hunting. Because their economy is so strong, they want to make sure that none of these weapons will stay alive going through into round 11. I'm not sure they'll be able to lock this down onto both, but they do neutralize Keto. Tapson goes back in, sprays a bit labored, but I think he will survive. And he also takes Dai Young down, who did have the AWP in his hands. So if he wants to pick another one up, that's a pretty hefty investment at least.
It would have been very funny to me if they did pick up 2 AWPs and then would have had to explain to Dexter after the match why he's not playing. It's like, wait, guys, you told me that we didn't need an AWP on this map, but then you started playing double AWP T-sides. Dexter, map 2's coming up. Like, get yourself ready. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So the fact that they have 0 now almost fits the bill a little bit better. Although I do think some Young T-side AWPing on this map has been pretty good. Patsy, though, Sure, it doesn't matter too much. They're 5-5, but he has had a rough start to this game. And as we mentioned, when they played versus Gambit, he was the best player in the entire server. Had so many high impact rounds. Seemed like he was thriving. Now, it could be a part of sort of inexperience. You get off to a slow start. You do see a lot of younger players not really come back from it so much, but they're going to need him to here because although on this side of the map, big CT side has looked a little bit rough, I don't think that's going to be the case on the T side, especially when Zontares gets unleashed.
That's exactly it. It feels like when Big can dictate the pace of the rounds, they are just unstoppable on Inferno. Their T-halves are really a thing of beauty to everybody except the opposite team. And Spirit will be on the receiving end of that momentarily. They still have to try and post up as many rounds as possible. I honestly think that 5 rounds on CT side, and that's a really weird statement to say, but because it's Big, 5 rounds might already be enough. So anything at this point may just be a bonus. 30 seconds to go. Mollies and smokes now being deployed, but Team Spirit have been kept at bay by some good counter utility from Big. They smoked off the bottleneck. 23 seconds. Third player is coming over. It's a rough buy. It's really only Tabson that has anything to use, but he's already put that M4 to use. He puts it down range onto Patsy before he's traded out. Now Keto needs to tee off with a deagle. Only 1 kill goes his way. And that third player, which was Searson coming around from the CT side, has been dealt with swiftly, meaning that Spirit in another post plant, and unlikely that Big can win the round, but maybe they can take a couple of exit frags with them.
Yeah, it seems like Spirit are actually almost annoyingly good at winning rounds like that. Like you look at it, you see like 10, 15 seconds on the clock and you go, oh no, this is going to be one that's really uncomfortable. Like just a misclick here and there or a shot not going their way. It could all go wrong. And then each time we're just sat there a little bit red-faced just going, actually, they didn't really struggle with that at all. They just seemed to get all the entry kills. They seem to work quite well together. And it's fairly impressive, especially with everything that Sum Young said in his interview where it's like, oh, well, we actually haven't been able to practice stuff. We need to fix an awful lot of stuff. And then you watch them as they walk into a site and you go, actually, that was clean. Like, you did well. You lose a couple of players, sure, but there was never a moment in that take where I was like, oh, this is going to go wrong.
Especially considering the lack of weaponry on Big. That's probably the thing that would have given me a bit less confidence in that hold. But Sum Young, the aggression, the lightning entry. Tabson now is watching, but that's a weak spray. These are the frags you expect him to land. He has been on point this entire tournament. That would not be a good time to lose someone of his caliber to poor form. Magic's getting aggressive, and it means that Keto is pretty much the last line of defense on A. All but one of the T's are breathing down his neck, and finally that pressure proves to be too much. I think Big will just be forced into a save again, Tom. After such a good start, I was fearing the worst for Spirit, but my God, have they woken up.
It's again another theme. Like, how many times now have we seen Spirit go like 5-1 down or something and then win half? It's almost like they're reading off a script at this point. It's a little bit peculiar. Tabson as well. Like you mentioned his form so far in this tournament. The last map he played, facing off against EG, it was an unreal performance. 31-12, and for anybody who doesn't know, that is a 2.21 rating. There's not many ratings that end up over 2. Let's just put it that way. If it's over 2, you've done something utterly ridiculous. So, yeah, not coming in with that same sort of form, and it's definitely being missed. I do obviously still sit here and go, okay, like they did this last time, but I do also think that even a sort of unstructured new Team Spirit is still better than Hellraisers. No offense to Hellraisers, but I don't think they're anywhere near Spirit's level, even just on individual skill. So, yeah, it's got to be one of those things where we're waiting for a few of the players on Big to step up. But I still think that 5 rounds, it's possible. But I don't want to sit here and be like, yeah, no, they did this versus Hellraisers. They barely lost a round, so it's going to be easy. Hellraisers were playing very random, aggressive Counter-Strike. Team Spirit, sure, once they've got to 15, they've looked questionable. But you have to bear in mind that against the other teams, they got to 15 very easily, and then they just seemed to crumble a bit.
Yeah, it's that mental block that I kind of touched on before, which I'm not sure how much of that is actually legit and how much is just the case of, the other team finally adapting and overcoming to a degree. Obviously, again, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt, the fact how new they are. Tactical timeout has came and gone. And Big decided to get aggressive right down middle, but it's Tizian that is first to fall. Interesting stat also came up that tabseN is responsible for 3 out of 7 aces in the tournament. That's absurd. 3 aces in the same event? Seriously? I can think Shiro got 1, Spiddy got another 1, and I don't think we maybe saw the other 2 aces. But 3 aces in the same tournament, so I'm like, that's actually absurd.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a ridiculous performance from him thus far, but again, yet to really show up too much in this map. In fact, he's only got 5 kills total in this map so far, so they definitely weren't all in one round. 7 to 5, 8 looking inevitable. The aggression into mid, seemingly achieving absolutely nothing. And the patient play from Spirit is enough to just pick them apart. And again, I don't even know how many rounds this has been in a row at this stage. This is about to be...
Was 7 rounds if they win this.
7 rounds? Yeah. So it was 5-1 again. And this was completely flawless. So there you go. Thank you very much, observers, for painting the picture. But yeah, and again, you've just got 3 players on their team just going absolutely ham. Like Patsy and Chopper have really not had much to do. You got 11, 12, and 13 kills on Someday Young Magic's Amir. They are dominating. And a lot of this has just come down to anything that Big try, they get a bullet in the face.
Yeah, we couldn't even accuse Big of being sort of static or boring, but Someday Young taking quite a bit of damage there from the Molotov. Does, of course, survive to tell a tale, just jumps back around to his safety net of his teammates. But they've tried aggression. We saw Searson just get plugged straight away in the head by Magix. Over on the upside, we saw some aggression down middle from Tizian. Banana control has been a reoccurring theme. It's just Spirit have been up to the task. Have not been too desperate or anxious, and now some aggressive play. Tizian stuck in middle, got flashed by Mir and finished off, and now they just walk straight through apps. It's a calamity again for Big.
Yeah, the worst thing is as well, I feel like Spirit made some mistakes of their own. Like, Chopper just tries to run through a fully fledged Molotov, like just goes through the whole thing, and luckily his teammates just wipe everyone out on the site anyway. They're just not missing a beat at the moment, and Big are struggling. They are really struggling, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Team Spirit are doing anything mind-blowing. They are just out-dueling Big at the moment. And that's one of the things that, again, we spoke about when we watched that Hellraisers game. It was like, okay, they're not, like, doing these deep strategical things. That was a flash through the smoke where they managed to get pretty much double openers. And then because of that, they just don't seem to have the structure to actually hold on to the apartments anymore. So... yeah, Spirit, this is a ridiculous streak of rounds. 8 now in a row. Big yet to really show anything in response. And Searson, we know him for his scout shots, but the fact is, Someday Young, he's been fantastic. This is looking like his map, if anything. He's been so good.
And although we waxed lyrical about how well Patsy played on Inferno, obviously when they had Dexter out, Someday Young wasn't too far behind. He dropped a 1.48 rating, a lot of which was with the AWP. So clearly a map where he feels comfortable, and the two of them combined. I guess Patsy hasn't really been required this map, but Someday Young has been there again and consistent. tabseN, though, getting the first pick feels like the first time in a long time where Big have had an advantage of any description in terms of HP. Because Someday Young and Magix are so low. There is a gap in that smoke as Mia spotted him. Definitely her tabseN, who actually gets the headshot through the smoke underneath Mia's nose. That is going to sting. And Big now have the player advantage on top of everything else, but not for long. Magix decapitates Tizian, opens up some avenues round arches. This is going to play hell with the defense as well, because it isolates Xantares. He's all alone one more time on the site. Well-timed peek, though, and tabseN shuts down Mia. In the back at range with the MP9. They know Patsy's on the A site. They've seen the bomb in his hands. Now they just need to collapse on him. Last round of the half, and Xantares taking tons of damage, but so does Patsy. 9 HP remains. This would be an awesome moment for his career if he could prove exactly why Dexter is on the bench and Patsy is here, and he's exchanging blows with tabseN. There's enough time for the plant, but although Keto has made up ground, that smoke keeps him a little bit unpredictable. Kito's not sure whether to peek or not, and now he's going to be slowly coming around that corner. Patsy's timed this perfectly. Kito is still unsure as to whether he's hiding in the smoke, still unsure which side of the site he currently resides in, and Patsy spins around! That's why Dexter's not playing, that's why Patsy's here, and Spirit pick up 9. We'll come back after the break to see if they can convert this massive lead.
Well, it was a great start to the map for Big. 5-1 up. They looked strong. We were sat there thinking, oh dear, are they about to run over them? Searson was popping off. It was looking like a good game. And then Spirit went ahead and won 9 rounds in a row on their T side. They're going to the CT side. A pistol win might be enough to put this one to bed. But Vince, we've been here before.
Yeah, Big's T side is pretty much one of the best, I would say, on planet Earth. It is just so good. And although Spirit have had a fantastic turnaround, and I want to take nothing away from them, I think this is where the true test begins to take shape. Mia was incredible over on the banana side. He will now be defending this area of the map, and he is joined additionally by Chopper, who has a bit of utility, including a smoke he can just toss down, but the bomb is traversing through the murky waters of Apps. 2 players down towards the pit. Magix and Patsy are the 2 up against them, and they will be called upon momentarily. Now, all of this is more of a ruse. You can see that Xantares is shooting through that smoke over on B. It's keeping 3 players interested. They're now rotating and wrapping Tabson away. And oh no, Magix has started to make a move, but it may be too premature on this push. There's no way of Big knowing this, but Magix holds the line. It's only into his demise, though. Kito plugs out his head with a P250 at range, and this should now be a post plant. And in a 3v4 with such difficult post-plant positions and a smoke down in their eyes, and to make matters worse, Sumdai Young dropping, it seems like Big are going to start that machine rolling down the hill, picking up momentum, and Xantares with the Glock with a 3K. Now, you said, Tom, on the T side, he is the player to watch out for. The fact he's just picked up 3 kills like that makes me a bit worried for Spirit.
Yeah, I'll be honest, like, highlighting Xantares on a T side, it's probably the easiest prediction ever. It's sort of like all the people who said they think Big is going to win this tournament. It's like, yeah, well done. You picked a nice boring one. Must be nice, you know, your plain lives and your plain prediction. No, I'm kidding. But it is one of those things where it's like, you expect him to do well. If he doesn't, that's the story. Like, if Xantares is not performing well on the T side, then we talk about it. If he is, that's another day at the office.
Two SMGs on Spirit. They have gone in for a full force, done by Young. A bit less of a buy, obviously waiting for that AWP. I've tagged down Patsy enough that he had to relocate and give up his position. The SMG tries to rip and spit bullets into the incoming T's, but instead it's Mia's Deagle that will suppress Tabson, keeping himself alive. That's a great smoke as well. It stops them from just barraging their way down through that bottleneck. Sumdai Young taking this opportunity to get on the back of them, but he's whiffed the first couple of bullets. Finally sticks the landing though, and Kito and Xantares are pushed aside. That smoke was so vital for Spirit. It kept them at bay, it kept them in this awkward position, and now they are dividing and conquering what remains. Tizian, last man standing. They know he's in pit, he's encircled, and Spirit take it in style. Only Patsy loses his life.
Everything about that went their way. The smoke was fantastic, but this timing, this had me terrified. But luckily, Sumdai Young manages to correct his aim, and 11-6 now. It's going to put them in real trouble. It's going to have to be some pistols of their own. Tabson actually saving up a little bit of cash, although I wonder if he's just late to buy, which he is. Get to move out of the spawn. Well, Team Spirit, that could be the decider. Like, if there's no response here, it's going to be a pretty rough spot now, because this is a full investment. Let's say they lose this. That's 12-6. Then they have nothing. So that's 13-6. And then they have to start their comeback with the rifles. So it could be Big pretty much pushing themselves out of their own map.
Although this is Spirit's choice, this would still be quite a shock to me, Tom. I think most people coming into this expected it to be a fairly brisk 2-0, with Spirit booking their place in the final. Searson's just been dunked off grenades. Was a fair bit of damage to Chopper as well in the process, however. And with this being a full force, definitely doesn't spell too much optimism on Big. They still have 4 healthy players, though, and they're all moving together. Bomb is dropped back towards second mid, but Keto, massive entry frag with the Deagle, opens up business through arches. They could afford to wrap, but obviously, that previous round, this is where they got stuck. This is where they got flanked from Library, so that'll be certainly in the back of their minds, in the recent memory. Some die young, holding it down on Graveyard with Magic's watching towards the Archer's side, and he's going to be peeked from 2 separate angles, but he holds on for both. Exquisite spray transfer with the Galil, and Spirit repel the Force Spy.
I'm so glad to see Magic's performing back to the standard we know and love. Like, he had a really rough day yesterday. As said, 5th worst map he's ever had. And although he's young, he's played a hell of a lot of maps over the last couple of years. But the fact that he's come back so strong today, 115 ADR, 19 kills, 12 deaths, so many integral moments that this man has managed to pull off. And as said, this is now the real danger zone, because there is a single flashbang. That is all the Big can afford. Searson having to save up some extra money just to try and make sure he can even get an AWP going into what will be their first proper buy round. And well, considering how the last half went, getting off to a good start was so integral. They've been wrecked by nades again, some cash being made, and Chopper trying to be a little bit careful because he doesn't want to allow them a bomb plant. Don't give them that extra cash. 1 loss, not really a big deal. It was an SMG as well. And now we get the full purchase. Now, as said, one thing that we've noted is whether or not the AWP is going to be a consistent factor for Spirit, and they can definitely afford one. And in fact, it will come in. So Some Young is going to be picking it up. He's another one, a superb game. Him and Magix have been the difference, and that's not even talking about Mir yet.
Exactly. An embarrassment of just pure ability level over on Spirit. So much of it. So many players on any given day, and even with Magix having a rough tournament, as he touched on before, now he's finally coming to the forefront, and what a time for him to burst into some form. Big on the meanwhile, though. Yes, they are down. Yes, they are certainly feeling pretty rough right now, but I still feel like they can pull this one back, Tom. I still feel like their T-half is more than good enough to weather this very patchy start. Now that they've got some rifles, but it's important because they're running out of time. They're running out of opportunities. I'll know the importance of this round. They concede this, they're already 1 foot out of this map. Mia forced off the angle, takes the AWP shot. Sorry, narrowly misses out on the AWP shot, but he hasn't missed out on Keto's AK spray, and neither has Chopper. So it looked a little bit grim. On the approach, they took some damage, but 2 fairly clean entry frags, and already Spirit are forcing the back foot, and they pretty much have to save.
Yeah, they have the money to go for it, but it's just not going to happen. Like, you'd basically just be throwing rifles to the ground. So, Big, you mentioned it. It's a round that they definitely had to win, but they do. And I kind of agree. Like, there's a few factors that you have to take into consideration. Big's T side is very, very good. Spirit are very bad at closing games. You put those things together, and that could be a pretty scary combination. Now, I will say thus far, when it comes to the plays we've seen, Team Spirit have definitely had the better of the two. And Searson going onto that T side, like, he's been one of the sort of pinnacle members for Big. A lot of the time, in fact, on the CT side being out of the action, and when he was in it, he was able to connect the majority of his shots. The problem is going onto the T side, you're almost relying on Team Spirit being overly aggressive and taking fights for him to have much impact into the round, because otherwise he has to start hitting some pretty ridiculous shots. So that's where we do need some of the other players. Now, we mentioned Tabson having a pretty quiet start. He started to step up a bit. I think Zontaras, again, he's always going to be the highlight, but they've still got a long way to go. 6 rounds is the difference, and there is a comfortable buy here.
Yeah, the comfort levels right now on Spirit will be pretty high, but that can quickly turn around on the CT side. That'll be the thing that's just lurking in the back of their minds. Tabson was thinking about going for the peak, may very well flash himself in. That's how aggressively he wants to play this. He knew that Spirit were in a bit of an awkward and uncomfortable spot. And they do just about get out of there. 3 players now find themselves located on B for Spirit, and Big still have plenty of time allocated. Tossing out another smoke, they still have 3 in their collective utility belt. They don't have to fully force or embrace the B site. They can head back over onto A, and that seems to be what's going to happen.
Yeah, this is where we might have to see a bit of re-aggression from Team Spirit because, as you sort of mentioned, they have this initial stack, but they don't want to just rotate without any information. Now, some Young has seen nothing, but the bigger problem is going to be apartments. Now, Magic's from this pit position is normally deadly, but I do worry a bit of how successful he's going to be fighting this with a Galil, a preemptive smoke, but his teammate's gone because of it, and Tabson just walks into the site alongside Zontares, and again, this round is all but over. The remaining players of Spirit just have to hold on to their guns. They went for a gamble initially, and I just don't think they had the right sort of setup to go against an apartments push. And to be fair, a lot of teams in proper buy rounds, Vince, you wouldn't actually see them do it. So I kind of respect the call of Big to just go, okay, they're not going to be ready for this.
Especially when you're 13-7 down and know the importance of every decision, every single move that you make. Tapson may get caught on the side. Chopper had the angle. And now they know where he is, but it's not as if the money for Big is spiraled out of control and they can afford to throw all these guns away either. So there's a bit of a tentative, dipping their toe in the water and hoping for the best. And now that Mia has been headshotted down by Zantares, Chopper is getting jiggle peeked over and over again. Searson tries to hold on. He's just trying to stall as long as possible for Keto to make moves. It's a success. All 5 guns are down and dead. But I will also say that was very unfortunate timing for Magix. He actually had to flash long. I'm not sure if the call came out from one of his teammates that they felt like Arches was going to be wrapped on towards B. But he flashed long, pulled a smoke out, did the pit smoke, and then they just all charged out. So he was like caught in this weird moment of just having thrown the smoke in his own smoke so he can't help his teammate out on the side. And it was just timing absolutely ravaged them. But as you said, they didn't expect that because Big, that's not typically a play that you're going to toss out when all the chips are on the table.
That's like, yeah, it's like a Mac 10 play. Like that's the gun that you would normally sort of put down to that play. So I respect it because, as I said, it's not something you're going to be expecting, especially with that amount of players. That's why some Young goes pushing into short because he's looking to try and find information about them pushing through mid. Absolutely nothing there, and he's left in no man's land when they come pushing out of apartment. So yeah, timing definitely worked in their favor, but it was also a pretty interesting strat to begin with.
A quick peek is Chop Up. They have gone down to their last pennies. But Mia, well, he makes sure that each and every one of those scents has been put to good use. M4 spray to the head. Tabson taking middle control. Not for the first time is putting a lot of pressure on Arches. But whereas last time Spirit had over-rotated towards B, this time they've got some defense on A, but it doesn't matter. Tabson, even while flashbang, connects the headshot. Mia's thinking you're pushing through the smoke and push. He shall. He gets a kill and he lives. He manages to dart back out again from the shadows. Meanwhile, Chopper's pushed all the way down middle. He spots the bomb, but unfortunately Tizian is there to safeguard it. And now some Young goes out for a peek. It's a chaotic round, but it will be Spirit one player to the good.
He doesn't have a smoke. He can't do anything other than just hope that this Molotov shrouds the vision of his opponent, and this allows Mir the chance to wrap around. They're going to have a decent defense and no way to really hold it off other than Searson's AWP, and he just about manages to survive. But do they know that someone's already made it to the site? Tizian fakes it, and he's going to get the kill onto Mir. He's had a bit of a rough one, but here comes the peak from Magic's back in. His opponent incredibly low, and he's just about going to clutch out the round. Orp save, a little bit of time to relax just before getting that defuse and pick up a few extra pieces. Again, he's been phenomenal. Okay, that was unnecessary. Didn't need to do that. You've killed everyone else. Poor chicken.
I do
Look at his eyes. He's cold-blooded. You can tell. He feels nothing.
Calculated, mate. Yeah. Just another day at the office. This, for me, was the madness, though. Mia pushes the smoke, gets a frag, backs away again. And I do feel for Searson. On 2 HP, unconfirmed damage, he felt like he had to go for something a little bit more audacious because for all he knows, Magix has an incendiary or he has a HE. And with 2 HP, you can't take that risk. You have to try and take the fight to the opposition. It looks a bit foolish, but I completely understand why Searson's gone for that. Unfortunate, but Spirit, 14-8 lead, Tom. Big. They're on the brink of losing Inferno.
Yeah, at this stage, this round is everything. Well, for both teams. All right, Team Spirit, we know that they sometimes crumble towards the end of maps. So they want to make sure they get this done soon. For Big, if they don't win this round, they've got no money left to even fight with in the first place. an early 4-man stack. In fact, no one on B at all. It's being held by Chopper at a distance. Zontaras is going to get the opener, but it's traded out. And again, it's this problem coming in from the apartments. Now, they don't necessarily expect the full force of Spirit to be here, so the rotation now leaving nobody. And this has come back into a 2v2, but this has to be the realization. They're going to run the gauntlet towards that B site, and Tabson should be there first.
Oh, it's taking a long time for the bomb, though. It's still back on T steps. Pop flashing out just to make sure that middle wasn't being aggressed down so Searson wouldn't get picked off. There was a smoke put out, but Mia pushes that smoke, and okay, you live by it, you die by it. Typically Big are checking underneath their bed for Mia at night. He's just been an absolute nightmare living in their heads rent-free. This time, though, they have managed to evict him. It will still only be 9-14 as Chopper's not interested. He's looking to try and save the AWP, which would certainly be a massive plus. Does mean that Big are slowly crawling their way back in, though, Tom.
I love the idea that someone like Chopper's just gone up. How did you die? It's, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Oh, no, I want to know. It's like, no, really, it was nothing. It was normal way. I didn't go crouch walking through a smoke. It's a mental way to play the game, but I guess in the previous round, it actually won them the round. So it's a double-edged sword. It ends up biting them this time, and Big, they will continue forward. And as mentioned, both teams now, well, in that round, especially economically, we're in a really rough spot. So you look at the economy that's coming up for the other side at this stage, and it's not going to be great. That rifle save is probably going to be all they have. And in fact, it's so bad, I think they might actually force it.
Yeah, Sundai Young's not fully investing because obviously he wants to get that AWP down to $900. Chopper 1,200, indeed, they have gone for this force. I do feel a little bit for Mia, like it 2v2, absolutely, it's too big of a risk. But I think the timing in his mind, enough time had elapsed post the smoke, that it's like, it gives that T a chance to have maybe tried to move into ruins. And you push around the back of them and you shut them down in the back. You look like a genius, you know? It's one of those players like, oh my God, Mia, he pushes the smoke, he wins the round, what an absolute boss. You die, you look a bit like a fool. But I can at least respect that he has the stones to go for a play like that, even if it doesn't end up working out for him. M4 alongside that AWP, and Chopper using it down on Banana, all by himself on B. Just one well-placed flash, and this site should be ransacked. Should be the end of the round, but let's see how much Chopper can get done. Do they sloppily just walk straight round the corner? I don't think they will. They must know that at least a rifle's been saved and there's a good chance that the AWP was picked up. They have to know this. So Flash was tossed in preceding the push. They forced Chopper away from the angle. And for me, this is where Chopper just pieces out. Just go onto A site where the rest of your team is. Try and save this AWP again. I don't know why he's sticking around. I don't get it. Explain to me, Tom. I'm confused.
It's worthless. It was completely worthless. Like, the fact is, that even if he gets a kill there, like what, they're all going to rotate and just try and retake this one with no utility? It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah. And now, please, okay. I thought Subnayoka was going to do exactly the same thing. Like, well, what if I can kill someone on top of the boost? He is actually going back for repeats. Why? Like, you're not going to do that much damage to Big's economy in this sort of round that it matters. Keeping that AWP is so much more valuable. And okay, at least they manage a retrieval mission to get that weapon back into play. It was looking like they even set up to save it as well. It's like, okay, if for some reason they don't smoke everything off and just like peeking individually, maybe I get something done. Other than that, it was a 1-4, hoping they were going in the other direction. So yeah, weird for him to stick around.
Bit of an oversight as well, because Chopper did have a kit on his corpse. No one picked that one up. So the reason why we're both a bit perplexed as to Chopper's decision making is because they had no economy to get a buy into this round. So saving the AWP and the M4 as they did end up doing does afford them a little bit more firepower, but they do lack that kit, and maybe that could be the stinging blow. Utility men, Big have the second best utility ADR and best flash assist rate in the tournament. I wonder who's first. Is it Gambit maybe?
I don't know. Well, I'm sure that's a stat that will come up hopefully very soon, and we can find out who is going to be the number one in the tournament. But yeah, there's not really surprising. There is a reason that there's only one top 10 team within this tournament, and we are currently watching them. Although we are currently watching them losing, so take that as you will. Maybe utility isn't everything, and I'm pretty sure every analyst who is currently watching this match now is going to start sending me horrible messages.
Patsy's getting aggressive. Oh, Tizian caught the nade out. How is he still alive? How's he survived that? Oh, because Zentares, big brother Zentares had his back covered. It's all good. The Turkish bodyguard absolutely dispatches Spirit post haste, but that was looking incredibly rough for a moment. Does mean that Spirit have kept all their pieces on the A site, and Big can start to funnel their way up Banana. They already have Keto to pivot off, and a lot of grenades have already been tossed in. They're faking as if this is A, and now they're headed up B, and they're going to find out pretty short term. This should be good to go. This should be another round.
You always got to have a friend like Zontares who can save you from any sort of situation, and I'm sure Tizian is glad he was there, but yeah, this round becomes, again, a little bit of a wait to get back into the action. Luckily, going into the next round, we are going to see a fully fledged buy. And the question is now, how much do Big actually hunt? Because you're looking at the cash on their side. Sure, right now it's not amazing, but after they win, most of the players are going to be around 7,000. So if they can take a weapon or two away, sure, there will still be a repurchase into the next anyway, but maybe not with an AWP, maybe not with the extra utility. They can make things very costly indeed. Instead, Chopper's going to earn an extra $300 and finally finish off Tizian, as they probably should have done a little bit earlier. And more importantly, well, they're likely to now save 3 weapons, which is a huge bonus for them.
3 weapons and 2 of them are AKs. So that's a big spike. That's a W for Spirit, all things considered. They came into this round with an M4 and an AWP. They leave with an AWP and 2 AKs. They'll definitely take that. Bolsters their buy up a little bit more. And this is Antara. This is the bodyguard moment. So quick on the trigger, man. Look at that. Unbelievable. Yes, it was against the Eagles and a low buy, but you can't fault that crosshair placement and reaction speed.
Yeah, Deagle's that close as well. The 2 shots to the chest. Like, he's got to do that quickly, otherwise Tizian's dead, although he ends up dead anyway. Seriously, this was what I was talking about. I was like, for him to get much done, they're going to have to try and fight him. And he was more than prepared for anybody to go for a battle of Banana. That's Sum Dai Young, one of the more impactful players so far for Team Spirit, gone out of the round within the first few seconds. And that's been the major issue so far for Spirit. Their B hold has not been anything to really write home about. They've been struggling over the last few, and now it's going to be the same as we saw in the last couple of rounds, pretty much. Chopper just trying to defend this all on his own, and Big have not really shied away too many times from fighting him.
They haven't, and maybe that's why they've already drawn out their second rotation player in the form of Mia, which has weakened that A site considerably. The fact that they have been pretty top heavy when it comes to B hits. They've also been hitting A quite often through apps. And by mixing it up over and over again, you can see the Spirit aren't sure. Mia originally went to rotate in B, then second guessed himself, and now they're going to be drawing away all 4 players. This is a gamble from Spirit. They realize they have to go all in on this stack. If it is unsuccessful, they can just save. But they are going to be tested. Chopper missing again with the AWP. Forced back onto Arches. 30 seconds to play with. And with 3 players clumped, the trifecta's been established on the site itself. And smokes put down. They need a kill. And now they've got them. Keto and Thompson, both with their AKs, put them to good use. And although Patsy did manage to get 1 frag, he was traded out instantly, and Big successful again.
Yeah, they walked into a stack and barely lost anyone. Like, that was clinical from Big, and I hate to do it because we sort of didn't want to mention it too often, and Patsy did have an incredible clutch towards the end of the last half. But come on, Vince. If you put Dexter in a position on the A side to thrive, he's going to do more. Like, he's going to do more than what we've seen so far. Like, they've been able to pressure Arch side quite regularly, and this time he gets a kill. But it doesn't seem to matter. They've been unable to hold on to so many angles that I would just love to see the big man just there ready to try and stop them. Because at this point in time, they only need a round or 2, and this is done. Do I think Dexter would win them a round or 2? Yes.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, really. And we've seen some pretty off-AWPing from Chopper. He's missed a couple of shots, and you can't help but feel if Dexter has those in similar positions, does he miss? Maybe not. It's a lot of maybes, though, and Spirit still could course correct in time. They still have that advantage. For how much longer, though, is yet to be seen. Momentum certainly is crashing in Big's favor. Minute to play with again. Mid control has been so easy for them. tabseN and Xantares have been pushing up via arches whenever they wanted to. It feels like it's just been free. Mia, though, other side of the smoke with the MP9. This is where the MP9 will shine. Rip and shred through oncoming adversaries. Xantares is using that smoke, and he's heard the footsteps. Xantares definitely heard that sound cue. That's vital information, and that could be the reason why they end up hitting A instead. And you can see that they originally were starting to set up on Banana. The second Xantares heard that rotation, they all swept back through middle again. 27 seconds to play with. And the fact that Xantares has not been spotted yet gives him such a powerful position, but he's missed his shot. He now needs to flank through Library. Fortunately for him, tabseN's got some entries, as is Keto, and it leaves it all to some DaYoung. 20 frags to his name, but he goes down to Tizian, and he was the last hope. It's a scrappy round, but Big get it done again.
We're seeing the real vulnerabilities that we basically witnessed earlier in the tournament. This TT side from Team Spirit has not looked good, and Big are just capitalizing on every single inch of it. You can't give a team arch control for free. You just can't. Not someone like Xantares especially. He doesn't even do much in this round. It's just the information that he garnered that allows them to rotate back in. The A site, it's not gone well. The B site's not been much better. I don't know. I don't know what Team Spirit can realistically change here. Some DaYoung, he's back on his up. I'm hoping this time it might be a slightly more passive stance, because the last time it didn't exactly go too well. And instead, we are going to see a three-man battle for Banana. But actually, it's the CT side that have taken most of the nade damage. All of theirs have sort of fallen away from the big players.
It's a hit and run. Shrapnel as a souvenir. And Spirit do go for a rotation back over towards the A side, have 3 players, 2 of which are on arches. I like to see this. They have realized, listen, we've lost top mid and arch so many times. We've got to do something about it. But the problem is, because so much time has elapsed with Big taking that Banana control, they must assume that there could be players on arch. They must assume this is a possibility. They do, and some DaYoung's timing could not have been worse. Another opening pick for the Germans.
It's just looking too easy for them to find opening kills all across the map, and it doesn't seem like Spirit can really do anything right. Their timing seems off, their peak seems off, and now they're just going for all in plays. Chopper, he needs to basically kill everyone. He actually manages to escape, and a rotation has come in from a teammate. But look at the control. This is what I mean. In the meantime, tabseN has now rotated back around the arch. Again, it's for free, but the timing actually goes a bit wrong. He nearly gets away with it anyway. And now Big are sort of stuck in no man's land. They thought they had the wraparound. Instead, it looks like they're going to continue their initial plan. And again, it's Chopper alone. He needs a minimum of a kill here.
He's already got one. The spray. Oh no, Chopper. Xantares was weak, and he still couldn't finish him off. And Patsy must have so many questions in his head, which has now been cracked open by Tizian's AK-47. That was a round, Tom. I felt like it was going the way of Spirit. I thought they were finally going to get some more success.
How?
But Xantares
how does he get
spins
this?
around. Oh my goodness.
He is in a Molotov, and he 180 kills. Well, he kills one guy and then 180s and kills the other guy. Like, don't get me wrong, Xantares is a very good player, but that only comes when you mess something up. That can only ever happen. FPX, of course it's FPX. That makes sense. From what we've seen so far this tournament, there was a hell of a lot of utility damage done by them, especially on Inferno. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. 14-14. This is a spot that it's weird, because we I don't even want to say we didn't see it coming, because we were even saying like 13-6 we could see them bring it back, however unlikely it was. But it's frustrating. Like, it's frustrating for us, considering Team Spirit have done well in the first half and even started things off strong in the second. It just seems like Big are so good at just picking apart their defense, but also just catching them off guard.
Big have been great at manipulating the positioning, I think, for Spirit, and keeping them on their tiptoes, keeping them in these very awkward positions. And sure, Spirit could have shored up a few things a little bit better. I've said that they typically lead for quite vast amounts of time. They let it slip a little bit, and Big's a team that you cannot afford to let get back into the game. Flashy's now being tossed in. Minute to play with, and although they did try a bit of early middle control, because it's only on pistols and not much utility, there's not really much Spirit could do. So once the smoke's cleared, they had to back off. They're stacking the site again. This does give Archers control to Big, and with the bomb on Banana, I believe we're about to witness a wraparound here, Tom.
Yeah, they have to have given the information over, but the problem is I don't think they have. Like, okay, Mira is actually going to go back and start taking a look around because they haven't seen anything for so long. The problem is holding this site when you're being pincered like this, it should be impossible. Like, they would have to pull off one of those Team Spirit BS rounds, and even with a little bit of team damage coming in, Chopper, it's a 1v5 with an MP9. Like, if he wins this, that he probably deserves some sort of knighthood. And he's actually going to be in the smoke with the man planting the bomb. He can't deny it, though. He could just try and go for a defuse, but he doesn't have a kit. So instead, he tries to kill them off. And somehow, his teammates have actually made this one interesting. It's latched onto Sundai Young. He spots out Tabson. But again, it's not going to be enough. Big, they take themselves a lead after a huge deficit. The string of rounds continues. Tabson's hyped up. And who would dare bet against them now?
Seen something truly special. A T side of Big that we had big hopes for, and they have proven us correct, Tom. Spirit have not been able to weather this storm, and unfortunately, a couple of their plays that started so well, like Magic's, has slowed down a little bit. He's still been playing well, don't get me wrong, but that first half, he looked like an absolute beast. And already, top Banana, Keto pivots into position. He's drawn away so many grenades from this as well. 2 incendiaries, a smoke. All tossed in for good measure. Chopper has nothing left, and he is one of those B players. That's a concern for Spirit already.
Yeah, they've managed just 1 round since they won that 4 spy and a couple of follow-up. It's been, what, 7 rounds in a row now for Big? It's not looking good for them, that's for sure. And they take this to overtime. They've pretty much played probably more rounds than almost anyone else over the last couple of days, with lots of overtimes, lots of close series, which they ended up looking dominant. Again, we see the pushing and probing of Big as they try to hold players in across the map. And although they're going to go back for some banana control, the bomb is making its way towards the A site. Now, there is a 3-man stack here, but they have been very good at tearing it apart. And I have to say it, the vulnerability thus far for me, Vince, has been that Arch side.
Oh yeah, 100%. Absolutely agreed. Because it's been such a weakness, it therefore has a reverberating effect on B site as well, because wraparounds are always a concern, over-rotations are always an issue. One weakness can prove to be so detrimental. A lot of damage inflicted to Zantares. 15 seconds. And they are moving into a stacked site. Maybe overtime isn't completely off the cards just yet, but Tabson just goes straight through like a locomotive, taking the head of Patsy and getting the bomb down behind it. Sundai Young is keeping the dream alive. 19 HP, but he's picked up 2 already. He also goes for the quick peek for information, spotting 2 players on the site. That can be relayed to the rest of his team, but Zantares now is hitting headshots again. 20 kills, make it 21, and make it 16-14 to Big. The comeback is complete.
Oh, that's going to be brutal for Team Spirit. They had their opportunities, they had their chances, and Sundai Young even gives a damn valiant effort to try and hold down that site from the pit. Unfortunately, the sheer force of Big on their T side again proved